Welcome back to the Science Podcast YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
Today,
Always great to be here.
we're going deep into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a spy thriller.
It really is.
But this is all too real.
Absolutely.
We're talking about Stuxnet,
Stuxnet.
a piece of malware so sophisticated,
Ooh, yeah.
so destructive, that it changed the world forever.
It really did. It was a watershed moment.
We've got a ton of research to sift through for you.
Oh, wow.
Interviews with the experts who uncovered Stuxnet.
Some of the sharpest minds in cybersecurity.
Intelligence reports.
Top secret stuff.
Even first-hand accounts from those who are targeted.
Yeah, the people on the front lines of this digital battle.
And trust me, this isn't your average computer virus.
Oh, this is way beyond that.
Stuxnet wasn't about stealing data or crashing your computer.
Nope.
It was designed to do something far more sinister.
It was.
Cause physical damage in the real world.
Real world damage.
Okay, so let's rewind to 2010.
Back in the day.
Picture this. You're an engineer at the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran.
All right.
Everything seems normal.
So far, so good.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Oh, boy.
Computers start shutting down, systems malfunction,
That's never a good sign.
and nobody knows why.
AGOS.
These engineers were desperate for answers.
Of course they were.
So they called in the big guns, antivirus analysts,
The A-team of cybersecurity.
the best in the world at dissecting malware and figuring out how it works.
Right. They're like digital detectives.
In the cybersecurity world, they're known as the woodpeckers,
Woodpeckers.
constantly pecking away at lines of code, searching for clues.
Yeah, looking for that one little anomaly that can unravel the whole thing.
So these woodpeckers get to work,
Right.
sifting through mountains of code,
Yeah.
trying to identify the culprit.
Like finding a needle in a haystack.
They analyze millions of pieces of malware every single day.
That's a tough job.
But this one was different. This one was special.
Special indeed.
Right, most malware is designed to be stealthy,
That's the usual MO.
to slip in, unnoticed, steal data, and disappear.
Right. In and out like a ghost.
But Stuxnet was like a bull in a china shop.
Oh, yeah.
It was massive,
Huge.
20 times larger than the average malware.
Which is a lot.
And it was packed with incredibly complex code,
Yeah.
almost entirely bug-free.
Very unusual for malware.
That's a level of sophistication you rarely see,
Yeah.
even in legitimate software,
Exactly.
let alone a malicious program.
This was top-notch coding.
And it gets even weirder.
Oh, boy.
Stuxnet used something called zero-day exploits,
Zero-day exploits.
which are basically like skeleton keys for computers.
Yeah, they're the holy grail for hackers.
They exploit vulnerabilities in software that nobody knows about.
Right, vulnerabilities that even the software developers aren't aware of.
Not even the companies that made the software.
So there's no patch, no fix.
Finding and weaponizing these exploits is incredibly difficult.
No, it takes serious skill and resources.
It takes serious resources and expertise.
State-level actors kind of resources.
And Stuxnet didn't just have one zero-day exploit.
Nope.
It had 4.
4.
To put that in perspective,
Okay.
security researchers typically only find about a dozen zero-day exploits in an entire year.
That's right.
So the fact that Stuxnet had this many was a huge red flag.
It was screaming nation-state.
This wasn't just some random cybercrime.
Oh, no.
This was a meticulously planned, nation-state-backed operation.
This was the big leagues.
So the question on everyone's mind was, what was Stuxnet targeting?
Yeah, what was the prize?
And the answer was even more shocking. It was going after something called a PLC,
PLC.
a programmable logic controller.
The brains behind industrial systems.
You can think of a PLC like a specialized computer that controls physical equipment in industrial facilities.
Yeah, like power plants, factories, oil refineries.
We're talking power plants, factories, oil refineries, even critical infrastructure like power grids.
The things that keep our society running.
These things are everywhere,
They are.
and they're essential for keeping our modern world running.
Absolutely, we rely on them every day.
And here's the really scary part.
Okay.
Stuxnet wasn't just attacking any PLC.
It was targeted.
It was specifically targeting PLCs made by Siemens, a German company,
Right.
and was only attacking very specific configurations of those PLCs.
Very specific.
This wasn't a random act of destruction.
It was a surgical strike.
It was a surgical strike
Precise and deliberate.
aimed at a very specific target.
They knew exactly what they were going after.
At this point, the woodpeckers were in a race against time.
The pressure was on.
They knew Stuxnet was out there spreading,
Like a digital wildfire.
but they didn't know what it was going to do or how bad the damage could be
It was a ticking time bomb.
The stakes were incredibly high.
Incredibly high.
As they dug deeper into the code, they started seeing a pattern emerge.
A pattern.
The epicenter of the Stuxnet infections seemed to be Iran.
Iran.
And this, coupled with some disturbing news reports about unexplained explosions at Iranian gas pipelines
Explosions.
and assassinations of their nuclear scientists,
Targeted killings.
started to paint a very unsettling picture.
It was all starting to come together.
Imagine the pressure these researchers were under.
I can't even imagine.
They knew they were dealing with something potentially world-changing.
World-changing.
A cyber weapon unlike anything anyone had ever seen before.
A game changer.
And the more they learned,
Mm-hmm.
the more they realized they were stepping into a dangerous game of international espionage.
It was like something out of a spy novel.
It sounds like we're about to dive into a real-life spy thriller here.
We are.
Where do we go from here?
Well, to really understand the significance of Stuxnet and why it was used against Iran, we need to step back and take a look at the history of their nuclear program and the growing tensions with the West.
All right.
That's where things get really complicated. All right, so let's talk about Iran's nuclear program. It might surprise you to learn that this program didn't begin with, hostile intentions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it wasn't always this kind of
No.
source of tension and conflict?
It's a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay, interesting.
Back in the 1950s and 60s, under the Shah's rule, the U.S. was actually a major supporter of Iran's nuclear ambitions.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
The U.S. was helping Iran with nuclear technology?
They were.
Yeah, it seemed
I know it's kind of hard to wrap your head around given the current situation.
counterintuitive given the situation today.
Right, exactly. It was a different time.
Wow.
Back then, the U.S. saw Iran as a key ally in the region
Okay.
and helped them build their first nuclear reactor.
Oh.
The Shah envisioned Iran becoming a technological powerhouse, and nuclear energy was a big part of that vision.
Okay, so it was seen as like a
Yeah, a symbol of progress and modernity.
modernization.
Exactly. But then came the 1979 revolution,
Right.
and everything changed.
The Islamic Revolution.
Yes.
Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, overthrew the Shah.
Right.
And Iran's relationship with the U.S. completely fell apart.
It was a complete rupture,
Yeah.
a seismic shift in global politics.
What happened to the nuclear program then?
It continued, but
Oh.
under a cloud of suspicion from the U.S. and the international community.
Makes sense.
There were concerns about Iran's true intentions,
Okay.
especially given the political climate at the time.
So Iran was saying their nuclear program was for peaceful purposes,
Right, for energy production.
like energy production.
Yeah, things like that.
But the U.S. and others were worried they might be secretly trying to build nuclear weapons.
That's the crux of the issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's not just about political rhetoric.
Right.
There's a lot of technical complexity involved.
Okay.
To build a nuclear weapon, you need highly enriched uranium.
Okay.
Enriching uranium is a difficult and sensitive process,
I can imagine.
requiring sophisticated equipment like centrifuges.
Centrifuges.
Yes.
I know they use those in labs to separate blood samples.
Right.
Is it the same kind of thing?
It's a similar concept, but on a much larger and more complex scale.
Oh, wow. Right.
These centrifuges spin uranium gas at incredibly high speeds,
Wow.
gradually increasing the concentration of the uranium-235 isotope,
Okay.
which is the kind you need for nuclear weapons.
So Iran was building these centrifuges,
They were?
and the world was watching, worried about what they were really up to.
Absolutely.
Enter Stuxnet.
Right. Enter Stuxnet.
And this is where things take a truly wild turn.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The U.S. and Israel working together in a top-secret operation codenamed Olympic Games.
Olympic Games.
Olympic Games.
Like the actual Olympics.
No, like a code name for this operation.
Oh, wow.
Decided to take matters into their own digital hands.
Wow.
They were going to sabotage Iran's nuclear program
Oh.
using a cyber weapon, and Stuxnet was their weapon of choice.
This is incredible.
That's a pretty audacious plan.
So they weren't just trying to spy on Iran or gather intelligence.
No, this was about active disruption.
They were actively trying to disrupt their nuclear program using a computer virus.
A very sophisticated computer virus.
That's some next-level espionage right there.
It really is. It's like something out of a movie.
And the way they pulled it off is just as fascinating.
It is.
Think about this.
Okay.
You got a team of the world's best hackers
The best of the best?
working in secret labs,
Top secret facility.
crafting this incredibly complex and sophisticated piece of malware.
Years of research and development went into this.
It's almost like something out of a science fiction movie.
It really is. It's blurring the lines between science fiction and reality.
It's mind-blowing to think that something that exists only in the digital world could have such real-world consequences.
Right. The digital and the physical are intertwined now.
And they were aiming this digital weapon at a nuclear facility.
They were.
The target was the Natanz nuclear facility,
Natanz, the heart of Iran's enrichment program.
where Iran was enriching uranium.
Exactly.
But there was a problem.
There was.
Natanz was air-gapped,
Air-gapped.
meaning it wasn't connected to the internet.
Right. Physically isolated.
This was supposed to be a foolproof security measure,
It was supposed to be impenetrable.
isolating their systems from the outside world,
The digital fortress.
air-gapped. So no internet connection.
Right.
No way for a virus to get in, right?
In theory, yes, but the Olympic Games team found a way.
Okay, how?
They used human assets, spies.
Spies.
Spies double agents
Wow.
to infiltrate the supply chain.
So they're going old school.
Old school espionage meets cutting-edge cyber warfare,
Wow.
targeting contractors and technicians who would visit Natanz.
Okay.
These unsuspecting individuals would unknowingly carry the digital weapon,
Wow.
hidden on USB drives and laptops, right into the heart of the facility.
So they basically bypassed the digital security by exploiting the human element.
Exactly. The weakest link in any security system is often the human element.
That's brilliant.
It was a clever strategy.
Once inside,
Okay.
Stuxnet went to work.
It did.
It spread from computer to computer,
Silently and efficiently.
eventually reaching its target. The Siemens PLCs controlling the centrifuges,
The brains of the operation.
but it didn't cause a catastrophic meltdown or anything like that?
No, this was much more subtle.
What do you mean? What did it do?
Stuxnet subtly manipulated the centrifuges, causing them to spin out of control and self-destruct,
Oh, wow.
but in a way that was almost undetectable.
So it wasn't like this big explosion or...
No, it was more like death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay.
Imagine you're an Iranian engineer at Natanz and you start seeing these centrifuges failing one after another. You'd be tearing your hair out trying to figure out what was wrong.
They probably thought it was a manufacturing defect
Right, exactly.
or some kind of mechanical failure.
Maybe sabotage by a disgruntled employee, who knows?
Wow.
And that was the brilliance of Stuxnet.
Mhm.
It didn't just cause damage, it created chaos and confusion.
So it was psychological warfare as much as it was a physical attack.
It was about sowing doubt and mistrust within the Iranian nuclear program.
Wow, that's incredible.
Iranian officials were firing engineers, blaming each other totally in the dark about what was really happening.
Wow, this is insane.
It was a masterpiece of deception.
So the U.S. and Israel essentially launched a covert cyber attack,
They did.
setting back Iran's nuclear program without firing a single shot.
A new era of warfare had begun.
And they did it all under a veil of secrecy.
Complete secrecy.
It took years for researchers to unravel the full story of Stuxnet and uncover the truth behind its origins.
It was a puzzle with global implications.
So what happened in the aftermath?
Well,
Did this cyber attack stop Iran's nuclear program completely?
not exactly.
Right.
While Stuxnet did cause significant damage and setbacks, it didn't stop Iran's nuclear ambitions.
Okay.
In fact, some argue that it actually backfired in the long run.
How could it backfire if it was successful in damaging their facilities?
Well, the public revelation of Stuxnet's existence had some unintended consequences.
Like what?
It showed the world, and especially Iran, the devastating potential of cyber warfare.
So you're saying that by using Stuxnet,
Right.
the U.S. and Israel may have inadvertently sparked a cyber arms race.
That's one way to look at it.
Oh, wow.
The genie was out of the bottle.
So it's like they opened Pandora's box,
Exactly.
and now everybody's trying to get their hands on these cyber weapons.
That's the danger.
Wow.
Iran, realizing its vulnerability, responded by pouring resources into developing its own cyber warfare capabilities.
So what started as a covert operation to sabotage Iran's nuclear program
Right.
may have inadvertently pushed them further down the path of becoming a cyber superpower.
It's a classic case of unintended consequences.
This is a complex issue with no easy answers.
It really is. It's a tangled web.
And this is just the beginning.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
The story of Stuxnet is just one chapter in a much larger and more complex story about the rise of cyber warfare and the changing nature of conflict in the digital age.
We're living in a new world with new rules of engagement.
This is fascinating stuff. I had no idea how impactful a single piece of malware could be on the world stage.
It's a game changer.
And the story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
Remember that other cyber weapon you mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Nitrozeus?
Nitrozeus?
Oh, yeah, the one you said was like a sledgehammer compared to Stuxnet's scalpel?
That's a good analogy.
Well, that's where things get even more intense.
Buckle up.
But we'll have to save that story for the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned.
All right, we're back, and I'm still thinking about that whole Stuxnet story.
Yeah.
It's just incredible how much impact one piece of malware can have.
Right. It really shows you the power of code in the 21st century.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
you mentioned an even more powerful cyber weapon.
Right.
Nitrozeus.
Nitrozeus, that's right.
Yeah, and you said that that was like a sledgehammer compared to Stuxnet's scalpel.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
So,
Stuxnet was very precise,
yeah.
targeting a specific facility.
Mm-hmm.
Nitrozeus was much broader in scope.
Okay.
It was designed to target Iran's critical infrastructure as a whole.
Whoa, hold on.
Okay.
What does that even mean? What kind of infrastructure are we talking about?
Think about the systems that keep a country running.
Okay.
Power grids, transportation systems, communication networks, military command and control,
Wow.
all the essential stuff.
Yeah.
Nitrozeus was designed to infiltrate those systems and plant malware that could, at a moment's notice, disrupt or disable them completely.
That sounds terrifying.
It was designed to be a very serious deterrent,
Yeah.
a way to basically paralyze a country.
It's like a digital doomsday weapon.
Yeah, it's a pretty apt description.
Why would they even consider something like that?
Well, the idea was that it would be a break glass in case of emergency option if tensions with Iran escalated to the point of military conflict.
So rather than like an actual physical attack.
This would be a way to cripple their defenses and infrastructure without putting boots on the ground.
So they were essentially preparing for a cyber war with Iran.
That's right.
A war that could potentially have devastating consequences for millions of innocent people.
Yeah, that's the dark side of this kind of technology.
Yeah.
It's incredibly powerful.
Kind of unsettling to think about.
Right, and it raises all sorts of ethical questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
The plan involved planting malware in strategic locations, waiting for the right moment to activate it.
Right.
Imagine Iranian air defense systems going offline just as U.S. fighter jets crossed the border, or their communication networks going dark, preventing their military from coordinating a response.
That's straight out of a Tom Clancy novel.
I know it sounds like science fiction, but this was a real plan.
Wow.
Developed by some of the brightest minds in the U.S. military and intelligence community.
But didn't the U.S. and Iran sign a nuclear deal in 2015?
They did.
What happened to Nitrozeus then?
Well, after the nuclear deal was signed, the plan for Nitrozeus was reportedly shelved.
Oh, okay.
Put on ice.
So it was never actually used.
Not as far as we know.
Okay.
But its existence raises some very unsettling questions about the future of cyber warfare.
What do you mean? What kind of questions?
Well, for one, it shows just how seriously governments are taking the threat of cyber warfare.
Yeah.
They're not just thinking about defense anymore.
Right.
They're developing offensive capabilities that could have devastating consequences.
So we're not just talking about stealing data or disrupting websites anymore.
This is about real-world impact, potentially crippling entire countries, shutting down their economies and essential services.
Wow. So it's like taking warfare to this whole other level.
Right. It's a whole new domain of conflict.
And the technology for this kind of cyber warfare is becoming more sophisticated and more accessible all the time.
Absolutely.
So it's not just...
It's not just the superpowers anymore.
Yeah.
Any nation with the right resources and expertise could potentially develop these kinds of weapons.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
It feels like we're entering a whole new era of conflict where the battlefields are digital and the lines between war and peace are blurred.
Yeah, it's a very complex and dangerous landscape.
Exactly. And the problem is there are no clear rules of engagement in this new digital battlefield.
That's right.
There are no treaties or international norms to govern the use of these cyber weapons.
It's a bit of a Wild West situation.
So what can we do about it?
Well,
Are we just sitting ducks waiting for the next cyber attack?
I wouldn't say that there are things we can do both as individuals and as a global community.
Like what?
We need to invest in cybersecurity,
Okay.
educate ourselves about the threats, and pressure our governments to establish clear rules for this new age of digital warfare.
Yeah, we need some kind of international cooperation.
Absolutely.
To prevent things from spiraling out of control.
Yeah, it's in everyone's best interest to find a way to manage this new reality.
You know, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It is a fascinating topic.
Stuxnet and Nitrozeus are just two examples
Right.
of the incredible power and terrifying potential of cyber warfare.
It's a double-edged sword.
It's a world we all need to understand.
Right.
Because it's going to shape the future of conflict in ways we can't even imagine.
We're just at the beginning of this new era.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cyber warfare.
It's been a pleasure.
Make sure to subscribe to the Science Podcast for more fascinating explorations into the world of science and technology.
And stay curious.
We'll see you next time.